The Blue Jackets are going to have to be at their best tonight to beat Vegas, but they can do it, and we're going to tell you how on today's Locked On Blue Jackets.
You're Locked On Blue Jackets, your daily podcast on the Columbus Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Blue Jackets, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am, as always, the host Jay Foster, here to give you the good, the bad, and the ugly about your favorite team and mine, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Before we get started, I want to thank everyone for making this your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and on YouTube. I also have to let you know today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Big game tonight for the Blue Jackets. Vegas is a very good team. The Blue Jackets have struggled in this building before. They are in Vegas for the one and only time this season, so they might as well make it count. Vegas keeps on every year. I'm like, man, maybe this is the year that Vegas takes a step back. And they are 31-15-5 so far this year. They're not like running away with it in the West, but they are sitting second in their division with 67 points, tied with the Edmonton Oilers in basically everything, which is quite funny. The Oilers have played one fewer game. The Vegas Golden Knights have two overtime losses. Both got a goal differential of plus 31. Anyway, it's really a two-horse race in the Pacific right now. Third place, the Kings are 9 points behind them, and are on a real downward slump. That being said, the Knights are 3-5-2 in their last 10. They just lost in overtime to the Dallas Stars. Win against Florida before that, another loss to Dallas before that, a win against St. Louis, a loss to St. Louis, and then a loss to Chicago, Carolina, Nashville, win against Minnesota, and a loss to the Rangers. So, like, real up and down last little while here for the Golden Knights, but they are still a very good team. They are lethal on power play. They score a bunch of goals. They don't allow a lot of goals. Their goaltending, weirdly, is not like out of this world good when you look at how many goals they're allowing per game. You would think that the goaltending would be better, but if I can pull up the stats on this, my guess is that the Knights just don't allow a lot of shots against. Is my uneducated potentially guess. They're allowing on average 27 shots a game. By comparison, the Blue Jackets are allowing 29 shots a game. I mean, the margin for error is pretty slim, especially at this point in the season. The difference between first place and last place is only 9 shots, or 7 shots, excuse me. But the difference between the Knights and the Blue Jackets, with 2 shots on average a game difference, is the difference between being 25th in the league and being 11th in the league in terms of goals allowed per game, and that's from most to least. So the Blue Jackets are currently 11th. The Golden Knights are 25th. So they're not allowing a ton of shots, which is kind of key. So their goaltending doesn't need to be like out of this world incredible. Like it's perfectly fine. Like Adin Hill has a .901 save percentage and 2 shutouts so far this year. He's got a record of 19-9-4. You know, he's not having any trouble winning games right now. I suspect he'll be the goalie that the Blue Jackets see tonight. He last played in that overtime loss to Dallas. Didn't have a great showing. In fact, he's on a little bit of a slump at the minute. He was great in the win against Florida, 1 goal on 34 shots, but his last 5 starts, he's allowed 3 or more goals in all of them, despite the fact that the Knights have allowed fewer than 30 goals. So going back to January 17th versus Carolina, 3 goals on 28 shots. Against St. Louis, 4 goals on 28 shots. Against Dallas, 4 goals on 27. The Florida game, and then 4 goals on 28 also against Dallas. So he's on a little bit of a slump here, is Adin Hill. Their backup, Ilya Samsonov, is doing fine. He's got an 898 save percentage, which is above league average. He also is in a little bit of a slump right now. Hasn't had an above 900 save percentage since January 11th. So despite the fact that the Golden Knights are 9th in the league in goals against per game at 2.76, the Blue Jackets 26th in the league at 3.34, which they've raised up a fair amount here in recent going. They might actually have the edge in goaltending right now. In Elvis's last 5 starts, I assume we'll see Elvis tonight. It's Vegas. He's the number 1 goalie. Like, his first shutout was in Vegas, I believe, which kicked off that string of like 5 shutouts in 8 games, or whatever it was, something crazy like that. Yeah, he had a shutout in Vegas, then followed that up with a shutout versus Boston, 2 goals on 34 shots, and then shutout. 3 goals on 30, 3 goals on 30, shutout. A truly wild stretch of play from Elvis there, which is always fun. But do I think that'll happen again tonight? Probably not. But again, very fun, very wild. Blue Jackets seem to have the edge in goaltending. The basic on-paper stats don't seem to suggest that. Elvis has an 894, which is lower than both Samsonov and Hill. But like I said, he is on a pretty good streak right now. We're probably due a bad Elvis game now that I've said that. But in his last 5 starts, he's got a 935, a 947, an 880, which was the loss to New York, a 966, and a 939. He's got since when was it? It would have been the game against, where is it? I can't seem to find which game I am. Oh, since the Vancouver game, which was real bad, Elvis he only has 4 losses and an overtime loss in that time. And he also has wins against Winnipeg, New Jersey, Carolina, and Toronto, and LA in that time. So like, he's on a hot streak at the minute. Would love to see that continue. Following the pattern, we are probably due a bad Elvis game. We had 2 good games, then 3 bad, then 2 good, then 1 bad, and we're on a 2-game good stretch at the minute. So we could see a poor Elvis game, but I'm gonna say that the Blue Jackets have the edge in goaltending right now. They might start Tarasov. Blue Jackets have a back-to-back. They've got Vegas tonight and Utah tomorrow, but for my money, I would start Elvis tonight and Tarasov tomorrow night. Even though Tarasov hasn't played in a week, that was the Carolina game that was not great. 6 goals on 42 shots. I've seen worse performances from a Blue Jackets goalie this season, but goaltending is not going to be the key to this game, I don't think. But the Blue Jackets definitely have the edge, especially if they start Elvis. And in fairness, credit to Tarasov, he's managed to crawl out of the basement of goaltenders this season. He is currently sitting at he was the worst goalie in the league for a minute there. But right now, goalies that are worse than him, they've got Philadelphia, Alexei Kolosov, Philip Grubauer is having just an absolutely brutal season, and Caden Primo, who was recently waived. Philip Grubauer also recently waived, actually. So, like, he was hovering around, like, again, having the worst stats in the league for a goalie that's played more than 5 minutes this season. But he's crawling out of it. He's at an 871 at the minute, which, like, is not amazing, but is better than before, you know? So, honestly, I think you just kinda have to take that, and run with it, but I do still think that they're gonna start Elvis tonight. I've said that the goaltending needs to be on fire, kind of in my little box over here, and I don't necessarily think that it needs to be like again, you don't need Vezina level goaltending from Elvis in this game, probably. It would help, sure would help. But again, if we can have the Elvis of the last couple of weeks, that would be great. But it seems like the Blue Jackets are heating up and the Golden Knights are cooling off a little bit. So we'll figure it out. Like I said, the Blue Jackets, I feel like, have struggled in this building historically. The good news is that the Golden Knights don't appear to have William Karlsson, who's usually good for a goal or two against the Blue Jackets. But we'll talk about who is who to watch for the Golden Knights in just a second here on Locked On Blue Jackets. First, I want to tell you about Game Time. Attending playoff games for the NFL is an unforgettable experience. It brings fans together. I have never been lucky enough to go to an NFL playoff game, but my father-in-law went to the Super Bowl last year, and he had a great time, and he got his tickets on Game Time. It is the best place to get your tickets. It is better prices. It is a better experience. They have a brand new feature called Game Time Picks, which only makes it easier and better. It filters out the fluff to only show you incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. They've got seat views before you buy, all in pricing with no surprise fees at checkout, and the most flexible customer service policy in the industry. Take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. Let's talk about some of the players that Blue Jackets need to keep an eye out on. And first and foremost is Jack Eichel, who is having just a heck of a season with the Golden Knights. Right now, he's got 64 points in 50 games. Looks like a completely new player. 8 points in his last 5 games. 5 of them are goals. He's currently on a point streak of at least 5 games, 6, 7. He's on a 7-game point streak, and he's got, I believe, 10 points in that 7-game stretch. So, one to watch for sure. Probably going to get matched up against Fantilli, which will be really interesting. They're not similar players, I don't think, but you've got the high draft pick, the Hobey Baker, the et cetera, et cetera. He's already 28, which feels wild to me. He still feels like, I still feel like he should be 22, 23. Anyway, that's beside the point. The Golden Knights, again, kind of a weird season for them. I feel like it's been a really kind of up and down season. They're not scoring as much as I thought they would be, but they've got Mark Stone, who's got 46 points in 37 games. Tomas Hertl has 40 points in 51 games. Shea Theodore has 44 points in 50 games on the back end there. Like, they're doing okay. They are scoring, not necessarily by committee, I don't think, but their scoring is a little bit more spread out than the Blue Jackets. I feel like the Blue Jackets have a couple of guys that are doing a lot of the heavy lifting at the minute. In Werenski and Marchenko. Voronkov is climbing up there. Kent Johnson climbing up there. Adam Fantilli, if he continues on this heater that he's on. But the scoring on the Golden Knights is more spread out. So they have 6 players with at least 30 points this season. If we count Sean Monahan in that, even though he's not in the lineup right now, the Blue Jackets have 5. If we don't count Monahan, they have 4. And again, that's Marchenko with 53, Werenski with 54, and then after that, the next active player is Voronkov at 33 points. So, like, what is that? 18 points, 19 points, 20 points. There we go. 20 points behind second place for your third place scorer. If we take Monahan out of the equation, who, he hasn't played in 9 games. So it's gonna be an interesting one. Like it's not really a case of like, okay, well, if you shut down their top line, they don't really have anything because their second line is again, it's not like next level great, but it's doing its job, you know? So it's gonna be really interesting to see what happens. Again, their power play is so good. They're third in the league right now, sitting at 28.3%. Now the Blue Jackets continue to be in the top half of the league in power play, which is still a wild concept to me. They're sitting at 22.6, 12th in the league. Do not take penalties in this game. It will burn you. The Vegas Golden Knights have a really, really good power play. The penalty kill is only okay. So, like, if you want to draw penalties, go for it. They've got the 19th best penalty kill in the league. The Blue Jackets are 26th at the minute. But, like, I feel like the Blue Jackets have been taking a lot of penalties recently and not getting a lot in return. And I have no real, like, basis for that beyond, potentially, like, just recency bias, but if I can pull up the penalties stats, the Blue Jackets are near the bottom of the league. They they have the fifth fewest penalties drawn this season. They've drawn 155 and taken 175. The only teams that have drawn fewer penalties, and this is good news here, Chicago, LA, the Islanders, and the Vegas Golden Knights actually have drawn the fewest penalties of anyone in the league. So that's good news for the Blue Jackets if they want to draw some penalties, then that might help. The bad news is that the Vegas Golden Knights also take the fewest penalties of anyone in the league. Like they basically are like, you know what? No special times for us, thanks. Special teams, not special times. We will just play the entire game at 5-on-5. They don't take penalties. They don't draw penalties. Truly wild. The Blue Jackets are currently sitting at 17th for penalties taken. In terms of minor penalties, they are sitting at 19th in the league. They've taken 155 minor penalties, 15 majors, which I feel like is mostly Mathieu Olivier. But again, even going to minor penalties, you take the majors out of it, the Vegas Golden Knights still take fewer penalties than anyone else in the league, which is kind of wild. So again, like it's impossible to be like, well, we just won't take any penalties and that'll be fine, because you can't control whether or not you're going to take penalties. You can control some penalties, you can't control others, but I do think that the bulk of this game is going to be spent at 5-on-5, which is going to be interesting, let's say. In terms of 5-on-5 play, the Blue Jackets score more at 5-on-5 than any other team. They've got 116 5-on-5 goals this season. The Vegas Golden Knights, however, are tied for second place with 115 even strength goals for per game. Which might be, again, that might get a little bit interesting. I would love to know goals against by strength. Hey, there we go. Goals against at 5-on-5. The Blue Jackets are sitting at they've allowed the 8th most 5-on-5 goals against, 108, but sitting only 4 goals ahead of them. The Vegas Golden Knights have allowed 104 goals against at 5-on-5. They've allowed the 12th most in the league. So we'll see what happens. This might be a high scoring 5-on-5 affair. We're talking a 6-5 game or a 5-4 game or something like that, which is not like, again, you know me, that's not my favorite way for the Blue Jackets to play hockey. It's not really my favorite kind of game to watch. My blood pressure doesn't enjoy it. My goalie sensibilities don't enjoy it. But it seems like that's what's going to happen. Is it might end up being like a 6-5 game. Which we'll do predictions in a second here. We're going to take another quick break, and then I want to talk about who's hot for the Blue Jackets right now and who needs to have a big game. That's coming up next on Locked On Blue Jackets. Welcome back to Locked On Blue Jackets. We're talking about who needs to have a good game for the Blue Jackets, who's on a hot streak right now. It will surprise nobody that the answer to both of these is Adam Fantilli. Since taking over as the 1C of this team with the Monahan injury, he's got 9 points in 9 games, including a hat trick. He's playing more time than he has all season. He's really clicked with Marchenko and Voronkov. He's gone from strength to strength, and he looks like a legitimate 1C in this league, which the Blue Jackets have never had. Okay, the Blue Jackets have had 1Cs before. Have they ever had 2 players that are of a 1C caliber playing at the same time? And obviously Monahan is out of the lineup right now, but obviously the worry was Monahan comes out of the lineup and Adam Fantilli isn't ready yet to step up. Hey, guess what? Seems ready to step up to me, which is going to create an interesting debate when Monahan gets back, which obviously is going to be further away than we thought. He's due back somewhere between March 8th and March 22nd, as opposed to like this week, like we all thought at first. Had an injury setback at the end of last week, which is not great. But Fantilli stepping up, and if he continues to step up, then what do you do when Monahan gets back in like mid-March? Do you put him back as the 1C and drop Fantilli down? Do you put him at the second at like 2C and see what happens? Because Sean Monahan has been a great play driver this season. Like, let's see, can he do it away from Marchenko and Voronkov? And I think yes, for a variety of reasons. I think you have to reward Adam Fantilli's play, especially if he keeps up this level of play through the next 6 weeks, which is about how long Monahan's going to be out for. But Adam Fantilli on a heck of a hot streak right now. 5 points in his last 5 games, 3 goals in his last 5 games. Kent Johnson has 3 assists in his last 5 games, by the way. He's kind of quietly been heating up. Also, it's Adam Fantilli's 100th NHL game tonight, which is very cool and exciting, and hopefully is a big one for him. I will say, in terms of Fantilli and his hot streak, it has been kind of lopsided since he had that 7-game point streak broken. Like I said, 5 points in his last 5 games. However, 3 goals came against Toronto and 2 assists came against Carolina. So nothing against the 2 New York teams, the games previous to that, and nothing against LA in their most recent game. So a little bit of a lopsided, like he's not on, an extreme point streak or anything like that. But hey, 5 points in 5 games. 5 points in the last 3 games if we're cherry picking stats. But I'm expecting good things from Fantilli. His ice time has jumped by an average of I want to say 3. His ice time has jumped by, I want to say 3 minutes, 2.5 minutes on average. He's playing on average 17 minutes a game this season, but his lowest ice time since losing Monahan has been the 16:36 game. He had played the 16:36 against St. Louis in the second game of the series against them. But then after that, he goes all the way up to an average of, again, he's played, his lowest ice time is 18-11 after that. So he's playing a ton. He's looking great. It'd be great to have a big game against Vegas for Adam Fantilli. I also mentioned Kent Johnson there, who has 3 assists in his last 5 games. Again, he kind of went through a little bit of not a slump necessarily, but he's got 4 points in his last 4 games. Sorry, 5 points in his last 4 games, 2 goals and 3 assists. Again, has seen increased usage in the shuffling. He, again, 31 points in 36 games. I believe he is about to break. So his career high is 40 points, which he set during his rookie season, which he needed 79 games to do so. He's 9 points away from that, and he's played 45 fewer games. So things are looking good for the Michigan kids. Again, it'd be great to see KJ have a good game tonight against Vegas. Let's do some predictions. I haven't mentioned Zach Werenski here just because I assume that Zach Werenski is going to have a good game and at least 1 point. That's kind of The problem with being so good for this long in a season is that you're just kind of like, yeah, he'll probably get 1 or 2 assists. No big deal. How excited would we have been last season for any player to have 2 points in a single game, But predictions, because we're running out of time here, is I'm gonna stick with my idea of like it's gonna be a high scoring game. I think it's gonna be 5-on-5. And let's say a 5-4 Blue Jackets win. Let's say a Zach Werenski goal. Again, feels like a safe bet, but should I go? Listen, should I be feeling lucky because we're in Vegas? Like, should I go absolutely wild and say, hey, I think Elvis Merzlikins is going to score a goal? Potentially not. Let's actually, you know what? Let's go with, because I was thinking about this last night. Mathieu Olivier hasn't scored in a minute here. He's been stuck on 10 goals for a while there. Again, still double his career high in points, but he hasn't actually scored a goal since an empty netter in St. Louis on January 4th. So that's 10-game goalless streak for him. His last goal against an actual goalie was December 21st against Philadelphia. So that's a 16-game drought against scoring a goalie. So let's manifest getting Mathieu Olivier on the board. I think that would be fun. It's been a minute. Would love for him to add to his career high. That's kind of what I've got for today. Tomorrow, we'll break down tonight's game, the good, the bad, and the ugly, the score. And we'll also look ahead to tomorrow night's game against the Utah Hockey Club, which I believe is the first time we'll be facing them this season as well. So we'll see. Again, we'll see how that goes. But thank you for listening, for making it your first listen of the day every single day. Locked On Blue Jackets is free and available on all podcast platforms and over on YouTube. You can find me on Twitter at _Jacob Foster, JAKOBFORSTER. You can find the show at LO_Blue Jackets. And thank you once again for listening. Until tomorrow, make sure you stay locked on.